Aging's a fact of life. I think we would all agree. And along the way, solo aging is for some, and it's growing in number. There are a lot more solo agers, those who are aging without direct kin around them. Family may be quite far away, or through events of living life, of aging, they find themselves now solo. And this notion of being solo, there's still a unique journey involved for self and adventures together with others. Today, I wanted to share with you what would be called the mentor's quest, the first maps that you can take into consideration. In other words, from solo aging activities of what is available, let's consider mentoring. Hi, Stephen Hobbs here with the Wealth Movement. And I'm on a unique journey and I'm adventuring together. And I put this presentation together so that I might share something that I've been doing for 40 plus years, and that's being a facilitative mentor, in particular, really digging in and diving into the world of mentoring. I am a person who tends to grow his beard out, thus the top picture. That's a bit more of a reflection of the season of winter. And then my blue jacket here is just a reminder I enjoy being in the outdoors, and I've learned a lot from doing outdoor activities. I spent 22 summers as a whitewater rafting guide, and mentoring was very much a part of that journey. And then the far picture is just to remind you is that I'm very inquisitive. I have a very curious nature, and I spent a lot of time writing and researching, spent time in universities. I can jokingly say I've got more letters after my name than I do in my name. And it's just a couple of fun facts about me. But I like to dive into this notion of the mentor's quest so that what we'll be able to do is take a look at mentoring. And to be able to set this up, I would encourage us to look at what are the three questions that are core to this story that's unfolding. And these three questions we use in a lot of different ways: the why, the how, and the who. And for me, the why question is about strategy and direction. And when we start answering that question, we get a little bit of the sense of the pathway and what does that pathway sort of look and feel like. And then what we do is figure out how, what's the structure and arrangement of our movement along that pathway. And with that structure and arrangement, there's many ways in which to do that. And we all have our unique journeys and our adventures together. And then the who is the relationships that we have, the connections that we make. And those can be from friends and family all the way up to indirect social groups that you might get together every once in a while. And then there are the new relationships that come in because of the activities that we engage in. Now, there is this notion of quest. You may have heard other words like trek, expedition, pilgrimages, walks. I've chosen quest for a reason, is because it sort of links into this notion of questions. The quest, questions, take the ions. Ions are chemical particles, they are on a journey themselves. They're looking for their complementary opposite, so the positive, negative aspects of ions. Questions are really stories that are in the form of issues, and we use questions to get at the initiatives. And it's just a way of looking at if we're on a quest, we're usually using questions on that quest. And I thought that I would just bring it forward as a great way to sort of provide a starting point, a baseline from which to work. Now, there are what are called the three elements that are associated with mentor. And these three elements, when you bring them together, bring forth the story that we associate. And in this case, it's the quest, the mentor's quest. The first one is mentorship, and this is the concepts that are involved with mentoring and being a mentor. And often they're expressed in a profile, a collection of these are the action outcomes that you can use under the banner of mentorship to be a mentor, which then sets up the notion of mentoring, which is the practices, the systems, processes that go along. It's putting those action outcomes into motion. And therefore, there are a lot of what are called best practices. Usually, those are associated with others or you find in books. And what the quest is about is finding the wise practices, where you take those best practices and turn them into wise practices that you use. And then there's the mentee, the person that you're interacting with. And there's a starting element to that. And then what I call the stream as you flow together in this notion of mentoring, the mentoring arrangement and the mentoring relationship. So those are the three elements, and what they do when you blend them together it gives you a sense of mentor. Now, the word mentor is kind of an interesting one because it reflects the person, but it's also the verb to mentor. And to be able to mentor as a mentor, you're using these three elements. Now, what becomes quite fascinating is when you start to bring the three questions and the three elements together. So the why is really looking at mentorship, the how is looking at mentoring, and the who is working with the mentee. And what that does is it gives you a bit of a sense of what's possible, how you might unpack this mentor's quest. And when you're able to unpack the mentor's quest, then you start to become what is called a reflective practitioner. Because by answering the why and looking for the strategy, the direction, using the mentorship concepts and profile, you're able to lean into this notion of the mentoring and the arrangement and the structure that you're going to use, which then says, okay, from a mentee, how am I going to build this relationship, this arrangement together, this connection? And by bringing the mentor quest forward, then you have an excellent way, an extraordinary way in which to pick it up from a solo aging point of view, and thus get into what I would call aging confidently or solo aging confidently, and doing it through a mentor approach using these questions, and then becoming a reflective practitioner of that mentor's quest, reflecting on it. Then what you're able to do is to really lean into the self concept of being a solo ager. And sometimes that hasn't really happened for us in our lives. But with this aging and solo aging, we have an opportunity now in our next 50 to really get into what is our self concept? What does that mean? What's our identity? And to be able to do it through the banner of mentor, it opens up a lot of possibilities of what it means to be an educator, mentor being one of 12 educator approaches. Then you have an identity aspect of that, along with solo ager. So, solo ager as mentor, solo ager mentor, educator. Now, the meaning that goes with that, the meaningful life, the impact that we can do, this brings forth this notion of mentoring as legacy and the meaning that we have, because prior to being in our aging, our next 50, picking up on the term solo aging, there's lots of things that we have done. We have our memories, our moments, our experiences, our careers that we can pull from. And to be able to remain relevant and leverage those experiences as we age confidently to gather the meaning, then mentoring and serving as a mentor is a really great way to bring that forward from a project, story, contributions, a legacy project, stories, and contribution. And being able to do that, to tap into this optimism, being an optimistic person. Sometimes you'll see words like positive or positivity. I tend not to use that word very much myself, but you might use it. I use optimism and being optimistic. And when you're a mentor mentoring, the optimism is there is because you get an opportunity to get into collaborative conversations and be able to explore. And eventually, if you have a little bit more of a longer term mentoring arrangement, mentoring relationship, you might find that the mentee that you've been interacting with becomes your mentor. And that's a really extraordinary place to find yourself. I have a few of those in my own life, and they've helped me tremendously in being able to not only become a better mentor myself and to appreciate the perspective of mentee in the mentoring arrangement, but just to expand my understanding of solo aging, living a legacy life, living an extraordinary life. So I always tip my hat to my mentees. The other component here is control. Now, there's a more fancy word in the psychology world of efficacy. I prefer the word control because it reminds me to say to myself, from a control point of view, I want to determine the quality of my experiences that I welcome into my life. And thus, through being a mentor mentoring, I have the opportunity to determine what mentees I want to interact with. I can then determine the quality of those experiences because I want to assist a mentee. And if they want to get into the determine the quality of their experiences with me, then we can find this collaborative way of interacting with one another. And then what that does is it allows me to lean into resilience. It's to be able to deal with the challenges that I might face, and with those challenges, I know there's going to be some rough times, and I might find myself slipping into ways of feeling that aren't always the best. But at the same time, with the resilience factors, I know how to pull myself out of that sort of a little bit more of a valley to get back walking in those mountains again and to do it without any kind of dysfunction. That's what resilience is about. And mentoring is an excellent way in which to keep reminding yourself, because when you're in these collaborative conversations, often you encounter the mentee who could use a little bit of a resilience boost. And by doing that with the mentee, it's also a great reminder for yourself. So these self concepts that come forward as a reflective practitioner while serving as a mentor, mentoring, and tapping into your mentorship is just an excellent way in which to find yourself saying, "Hey, this is really great, and what can I do to be able to do more of this?" And that's why taking up the mentor's quest is such a wonderful way to solo age confidently. And these first maps that I've shared with you are a starting point for you. And it's also a starting point for this mentoring as a legacy program that I offer through the Wealth Movement. And you can get more information through this approach through the wealthmovement.com website. We have a YouTube channel called Wealth Learning TV where I talk about mentoring as legacy. You can go to my LinkedIn profile if that is a preferred way to get to know me. And there is a YouTube channel of the international mentoring community that's been set up where we do certification of mentors. And that's a topic that I'll go into on another video. So I just wanted to acknowledge is that this mentor's quest, the use of these first maps, it's a great way to remind yourself of these three questions, the three elements, a mentor from a mentor's perspective. I have enjoyed the use of these questions, these elements in my own life, and I continue even 40 years in to use these ideas to do more investigations and interpretations and inquiries. Remember that inquisitive me, that curious me? I am always and in all ways looking at furthering my understanding of what it means to serve as a mentor, to be on a mentor's quest. So, with that, I wish you the best. I certainly invite you to subscribe, comment, share this video. More so as get involved. And if you are a solo ager or you know someone who's a solo ager, then encourage them to watch the video and get involved in mentoring as legacy. Get involved with the platform, the programs, and the projects that are available. So, with that, take care.